For 3 decades, a family has sought answers after a murder case turned cold. Now, sadly, the results are too late for real justice. In 1996, Susan Klungness was killed in her home, and that's when 14-year-old Jeffrey, her son, disappeared. Fox 13's AJ Janaville is outside of the Pierce County Courthouse with how investigators unraveled a mystery that stumped detectives for decades.
Investigators tell me Martin Malcolm was always suspected in this incident. He was a local handyman, a friend of the family, and somebody with a dark past. Unfortunately, the technology was not there at the time to close this case. In 2017, mushroom pickers in East Pierce County made a morbid discovery, finding a human skull covered in moss, missing its bottom jaw.
There wasn't a doubt for any of us who had ever worked on the case or familiar with the case that it was Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Klungness, missing at this point for 2 decades. He vanished on the same day his mom, Susan Klungness, was found murdered in their home.
Very early on, they identified Malcolm Martin as the individual who likely responsible for the death.
Martin Malcolm, a handyman, who the Klungness family met through their church, a man already with a deadly record. Malcolm served more than a decade behind bars for murdering his wife, the mother of his child, as well as stabbing several of her friends. He got out of prison in 1992 and soon befriended the Klungness family. Retired Pierce County Sheriff's Detective Sergeant Linnell Anderson worked Jeffrey Klungness's case. She tells me the evidence pointed to Malcolm as the killer, but without Jeffrey's body, there was too much doubt for an arrest.
Mr. Klungness knew this person had likely done this, and he still lived in the same area as him. He could be going to the store and run into the person who likely killed his wife and child.
3.5 years after the discovery of the skull, science confirmed the remains were Jeffrey's. But these answers came heartbreakingly too late for closure.
It was COVID, and Mr. Klungness had been admitted to the hospital, and he died the same night we learned that it was Jeffrey. We were unable to tell him. The hospital wouldn't let us go in.
Anderson tells me Jeffrey's father never gave up.
He had been searching that entire time. He was going up to the bus stops in Seattle. He was still handing out flyers. He was still working and operating and living every day with a little bit of hope that his son was alive somewhere.
Unfortunately for the investigation, the suspected killer also died before the DNA on the skull came back.
It was frustrating not to be able to make that arrest.
Despite this outcome, Anderson tells me
it's personal.
Solving this case is vital.
It's personal.
Officials with the prosecutor's office here behind me tell me if Martin Malcolm was still alive, they would file charges in this case. Reporting here in Pierce County, I'm AJ Janaville, Fox 13 News.